But I want the cameras to span the room. Go ahead, fellas, watch. They don't turn them. They don't turn them. They don't.
Hey guys, John Wesley here. Welcome to the podcast. I hope everyone has had a great week. I know I have. I am very much looking forward to the weekend. If you do not know who I am and you're tuning in, go check us out on Twitter at realjohn_Wesley. Once you hit my Twitter, you will see URLs from medium.com. That's where I write all of my political commentary, and then also links for our daily live streams on Periscope. So the original idea was to start a podcast. I mean, that was my only goal, was to do this podcast. And I was advised by someone, since I'm just a Joe Blow from the middle of nowhere, USA, I was advised to create a Twitter to build somewhat of a character and let people get to know me. And we have done that very successfully. I think we finally hit 65K on Twitter. But at the same time, I've neglected YouTube. I mean, if you start prioritizing things and you start looking at what's effective and what is not, it's human nature to neglect what is least effective. And so that's what has happened here. I apologize for my core base. Another problem is I have found when I post links from YouTube directly to Twitter, a lot of my following has a hard time at going to YouTube. I don't understand what that is. I don't know if they're just not that interested in me or whatever. But I have found that posting my articles, they do really well. Posting live streams, they do really well. Doing these podcasts, they do not do well. And so by human nature, I've just been like, yeah, I'm not going to podcast this week. It's not worth it, because it takes several hours to make them. It takes several hours to upload to YouTube. And it's just, like I said, but this was my original idea, was to podcast. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to keep uploading, and we'll go from there. But by the way, I haven't come up with a name yet. I know we were calling it the Middle South. But I think that was too much of a specific meaning to me. It was a very personal meaning, and people were just like, what the hell does the Middle South mean? And so anyway, I kind of wiped that. I'm just going to be John Wesley for a little while. That's just going to be the John Wesley Show until we figure out something better. I have a few names rattling around up in my brain, but we want to really take our time and decide. And it's not like I have thousands of people joining in to listen to these podcasts. So anyway, but I want to dig right into the current affairs for what's going on. So Donald Trump, 1 year in office. Now, the far right, and I say far right because obviously there are different factions within the right wing that are not considered establishment Republicans or even libertarians. And I don't think libertarians would be far right anyway, but the far right is becoming skeptical of Donald Trump. And I think they have been skeptical. I mean, we saw Richard Spencer and Identity Europa in D.C. a few months ago calling the president on his decisions for DACA. I mean, it's the only way that I can explain it to you is Donald Trump created a cataclysm in this country. He created something that we haven't experienced in a long time. And you had a lot of people feel the courage and the strength to stand up and say, hey, we don't want immigration in this country, or at least illegal immigration. And a lot of them probably would love to see a ban on legal immigration, at least for 5, 6, 7 years, so we can catch up. But at least they started standing up and saying, hey, we want the border sealed. We do not want terrorist attacks in this country. And, I'll be honest with you, in 2008 and 2012, I thought the younger generations would never come out as right-wing conservatives, or either hard right, alt-right, whatever. Because the way it appeared and the way the media broadcasted is that all new generations were awakened to liberal leftist politics, and they would never come to the Republican Party. We all remember the conversations about There would never be a cowboy conservative back in office. The George W. Bush days were over, and thank God they are, but I'm talking about someone who is considered to be hard right. They told us it would take a moderate, that the GOP would have to bend on immigration. We would have to pick up new demographics because of the changes. And we saw everything that happened this past November dispute that. So anyway, I wrote an article yesterday about the 1-year anniversary of Trump. And I said this: if Trump was to resign tomorrow, he has accomplished several things. Number one, I think Donald Trump opened up the door for new conversations, or at least he reignited a conversation that hasn't been held in this country since the 60s. He made people understand that America is America just like Japan is Japan. And our people, the parent culture, has the right to determine our destiny. We have the right to stand up and say no if it's something that we do not want. And that's what we did in November. Now, obviously, there are 64 million people who did not. But for right now, thank God for the Constitution and the Electoral College. I believe the Founding Fathers understood that at some point in time, masses and masses of people would gather in these certain areas, what we know now to be metropolitan enclaves. Maybe they understood that. I don't know. I just know the Constitution allowed the American people's voices to be heard. And so anyway, if Donald Trump resigned tomorrow, he did accomplish a few things. He accomplished new movements being formed. These new movements, we know them as the alt-right, the alt-light. I'm sorry, guys, for you on the alt-right. But he did create movements that have not existed in this country for a long time. People are finally standing up and saying, hey, we love Western civilization. We love Western culture. And Islam is incompatible with Western culture. I watched a documentary last night about about a mayor on the Hungarian border of which country? Anyway, he's a mayor in Hungary, and he is the first mayor to put up some sort of border fencing. It's not a wall. It's like a razor wire, double-lined fence. And this mayor was called a Nazi by his own country. He was also fought from the Austrian government. That's this county, or not county, I don't know what they call their areas, but this town is a borderline town to Austria. And this guy was fought tooth and nail, and then he finally got the funding. They built this big fence because in 2014, they had hundreds of thousands of migrants coming across their border. And anyway, he finally got the fence up, and I think it cut back on like 99% of the illegal immigration. But he was talking in this documentary about their traditions, Hungary's traditions. And he was talking about there's this tradition they have of killing the pigs. And it goes back from when Austria was occupied by the Ottoman Empire, a Muslim nation. And that after this was over, somehow or another, this killing of the pigs holiday was formed. And they drink this strong alcohol that is really famous in Hungary. But long story short, he was talking about, could you imagine hundreds of thousands of Muslim migrants in this town experiencing the Hungarian people slaughtering and eating pigs? And he was saying how important that this holiday is for the Austrian people. And it's the same thing in my mind with Western culture. It is the same exact thing. And I know I'm getting off on some kind of sidelines. I'm getting off, steering away from my talking point. But the fact is that people in America during the campaign of Donald Trump woke up and we understood that if we do not stand now, we will fall. This country and our culture and our traditions will fall. You know, Donald Trump has faced a massive, nasty opposition. Since the day he came down the escalator, he has faced immense opposition. And even Jimmy Carter admitted that the media has ridiculed this president more than any other president in history in his mind. They hate Trump. They hate his nationalist mentality. And you know, there is something else. Donald Trump has watered down. I mean, there's no way of, you can't deny that. Donald Trump has watered down, but what do you expect when the man goes into D.C.? He is in the swamp. He is surrounded by the swamp. The swamp is in his cabinet. That's something that pisses me off, that he put these people in there, but he is surrounded by the swamp. In the Senate, in the House, the media, his cabinet. They're good people in Washington. But the majority of people are the swamp. Donald Trump is standing on a stump in the middle of a swamp. So what do you expect? Steve Bannon and Sebastian Gorka are gone. They are gone. They might still have some sort of contact with President Trump, but General Kelly, I guarantee you, has cut ties with Bannon and Gorka. So Donald Trump doesn't have that nationalist whisper in his ear anymore. So obviously he's watered down. And I said this, sure, we would love to see the wall built. We would love to see a ban on Muslims coming into the country. We would love to see even a 7 or 8 year ban on legal immigration until we figure out what needs to happen to maintain American culture and American identity. But if he goes out tomorrow, he has accomplished many things. MAGA, Make America Great Again, that is something that will be forever. And what I mean by that is something we will be saying and working towards long after Donald Trump is gone. Donald Trump started the statement or the slogan, but that slogan lives in the hearts of Americans all over this country, and it will live on. This movement goes so much deeper than Donald Trump. It goes so much further than Donald Trump. And I know I sound a little pessimistic about Trump. I still have faith in him. But the fact is that, he has backed down on some of his campaign promises. And when he does this, the left rolls all over the floor laughing, because they're going to say, I told you, Donald Trump's a liar, Donald Trump's this, that. So all I'm telling you guys, Donald Trump has accomplished something that no other candidate in history has. He was an outsider. He beat 15 or 16 establishment Republicans. He beat a Bush. He beat a Cruz. He beat a Rubio. He beat the media. He beat a Clinton. He beat the recount. He beat the bullying campaign on the Electoral College voters. So Donald Trump accomplished a lot of things. And I know I'm speaking as if it's over, and it's not over. I just want to make you understand that the preliminary events before the election was the major accomplishment of Donald Trump. In my mind, for us as well, because it woke people up. It caused a reaction out of the American people. And now we have movements that have been formed and that are growing by the hundreds, that are finally standing up, and we have this spirit of nationalism spreading all over the country. So that's what I'm talking about, guys. But anyway, moving along. So I want to touch very quickly on the Sutherland Springs church shooting. Obviously, my thoughts and prayers are with the victims' families. I could not imagine going through something like that. I have a wife and a small child. I read the story about this madman walking up to an 18-month-old little girl while she was crying for her mother and shot her at point blank range. And anytime I see something like this or read about something and it's about specifically a small girl, because I have a young daughter, it makes my heart hurt. And it doesn't matter how much of a man you think you are. When you think about your children being hurt, or even in this case, being killed, it is a dark, dark feeling. But not even an hour after the shooting, the bodies weren't even cold yet. Chelsea Handler and other leftists took to Twitter. And this is what she said: innocent people go to church on Sunday to honor their God, and while doing so, got shot and killed. What country? America. Why? Republicans. So not even an hour after this massive shooting, Chelsea Handler has the nerve to go on Twitter and blame Republicans, and what she's doing is trying to tie a line between, these madmen, these shooters, and the NRA and Republicans. These people are crazy. And I'm telling you guys right now, the left wing in this country is a threat to everything we stand for. The left wing in this country will be the demise of America. They're already doing it. And this just goes back to Donald Trump and what he done in the campaign. And what he accomplished by waking up people. But going back to this church shooting, there's always a national discussion about guns. And I can't get to the bottom of it. I can't figure out what it is that the left doesn't understand. If you look at, and it feels like a cliche even mentioning Chicago, but just look at the city. Look at the city of Chicago. They have the toughest gun laws in the country, but yet the highest crime and murder rate per capita. Chicago is the most dangerous city in the country, along with Detroit, along with, I believe it's Los Angeles is the third or fourth. But anyway, these places are technically gun-free areas. They're gun-free zones. You can't legally own a firearm in this in the city limits. But yet the left wants to push this bull crap on the rest of America. And Congress, if they have any sense, if they listen to their constituency, there will never be stricter gun laws. Guess who killed the gunman? A patriot who was taking a nap. In his recliner, he heard gunshots. You know what he done? He didn't call 911. He grabbed his AR-15 out of his safe, he loaded a mag, and he ran out the house barefooted. And he engaged with the suspect. He, I think, landed at least one shot, maybe two, between the Kevlar plates in this guy's tactical vest. And, the left said, well, the guy had already killed everybody. Well, yeah, but there was another Baptist church about 3 miles up in the direction that the shooter was going when he fled. So who knows? This guy could have been going after more people. But the fact is that a man that was at home taking a nap in his recliner in the safety of his own home, his castle, he grabbed his long rifle, he grabbed a mag, and a handful of extra ammunition. He ran out the house barefooted, and he engaged this madman, not knowing if it would cost him his life. So anyway, guys, I appreciate everything. Thank you for your support. We will be back at this next week, every Friday. Every Friday from here on out, I'm dropping a podcast, no matter what. Maybe we will up it to 2 a week, but we will see. We'll see how it goes. By the way, again, if you haven't, go follow me on Twitter at realjohn_Wesley, medium.com/realjohn_Wesley, and then you'll see the links to the Periscope live streams. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it, and we will see you the next time.